So I carry a variant in PYGM, that's the gene linked to myocardial disease, and a variant in LPIN1 linked to another metabolic condition. Both are classified as VUS, variants of unknown significance, which basically means even the geneticists can't tell me whether they're causing issues. They might be, they might not be. We don't know yet. I'm a cycling coach, I study sports science, I race, and I still don't fully understand my body. What I do know is that I've had rhabdomyolysis multiple times over my adult life, sort of high CK levels, muscle breakdown, hospitalisations. I thought I'd seen the last of it. When several years without an episode, a month or so ago, it came back. So I want to talk about what this actually looks like, what I've learned, what I'm still figuring out, and where I'm at right now, getting back into training and racing. So here's the situation with my genetics. PYGM is involved in myocardial disease, where your muscles can't use glycogen properly. Full myocardial is serious. I didn't have that. I'm just a carrier. LPIN1, LPIN1, it's about lipid metabolism. Full deficiency causes problems with how muscles handle fat as fuel. I don't have that either. I'm just a carrier. Think of these genes as having like a little spelling mistake in them. And you could walk around, have these gene issues and not even know. You'd be a carrier for diseases you don't even know exist. But here's the thing. Both my variants are classified as VUS, variants of unknown significance. That's the genetic equivalent of a shrug. It means the variant exists, they recognize it, but there's not enough evidence to say whether it actually causes problems or not. So I'm left with you carry two variants that might be doing something in genes that could interact, but we can't say for certain. The specialists think my muscles probably don't handle certain metabolic states as well as others. Low glycogen, high lipid plaques, rapid transitions, but probably is doing a lot of work in that sentence. It's frustrating, honestly. You want an answer, you want someone to say, this is what's happening, and this is what you want to do about it. And instead you get uncertainty, which is hard to build a plan around. First episode in my early 20s. I didn't know what was happening, just knew something was very wrong. Was it just pretty extreme DOMS? Could it be lactic acid crystallizing in my muscles, as one person tried to convince me was possible, which it isn't. So ended up in hospital, they explained what rhabdo was. Muscle breakdown, CK through the roof, kidneys having to deal with all that debris in the bloodstream. Over the years, it kept coming back. Not constantly, but enough. Some episodes lasted a week, quite mild. Some were serious, lasted 6 weeks. More hospital visits, more tests. And eventually, so the geneticist and that picture came together, such as it is. Then a while back, it stopped. I went several years with nothing. I got back into serious training last year, got my numbers back up, started racing again. And I sort of let myself believe I'd figured it out. Whatever it was I was doing differently was working. Maybe I'd just sort of grown out of it. And that's the thing about these long gaps between episodes. You start to think, maybe it's behind you, maybe you cracked it, and then this time. So a few months ago, I just finished a recovery week, normal deload, 3 weeks on, 1 week off, nothing entirely unusual. The only thing is, at the end of that 3 week block, I was feeling a little bit fluey, and then it came on. I got the flu, ill for a few days, spent a weekend on the sofa just feeling sorry for myself, watching films, eating a bunch of fatty takeaways because I couldn't be bothered to cook. Not that much in the way of carbs, other than sort of Chinese noodles. I started feeling a bit better, but still not right. Didn't want to get back on the bike, so I had to go somewhere. I thought, you know what, I'll look after myself. I'll get the train instead. And that is when I felt it. I was walking down the hill from my flat. I was maybe about 50 meters, 100 meters away, and all of a sudden, legs just started cramping up. This pain sort of started building in my thighs. It was a sort of pain where it just makes you want to like tear your skin open and grab the cod fibers just to try and relieve it. I felt it before. As I said, it had been like 7 years, 8 years, and I'm not sure what triggered it. You know, it'd been so long without it. Was it the illness, the diet, a bit maybe a transition from staying prone all weekend and then all of a sudden I'm up on my feet walking to the station? So was it just all of it together? You know, I've had colds before and been fine. I've had flus before and been fine. I've eaten badly before and been fine. I've had recovery weeks before and been fine. Something about this particular combination just crushed my threshold. I can't tell you exactly what, and that's the hard point. Not having a clear sort of cause and effect to the point. So what actually is rhabdo? I'm going to try and explain it. For anyone that doesn't know, rhabdomyolysis, or rhabdo, is when muscle fibers break down faster than your body can clear the debris. The membrane around your muscle cells lose their integrity. Stuff that's sort of supposed to stay inside leaks out. Creatine kinase is normally an enzyme that lives in your muscles along with myoglobin and other intracellular contents. Your bloodstream fills with it. Your kidneys have to filter all of that out. If there's too much, they struggle, and that's when it gets dangerous because it puts your kidneys at risk. So that creatine kinase, or CK, is what they measure in your blood. It's just an enzyme, nothing to do with creatine supplements, just shares a name because it's muscular, that system. A normal level is somewhere under 150, 200. In bad episodes of rhabdo, you get into tens of thousands. And usually, if you've definitely got rhabdo coming on, you get that sort of, I don't want to get too graphic, but that kind of chocolatey brown urine, like you're really, really dehydrated, because that's all that stuff in your muscles just filtering out through your kidneys and then excreted. The CK, that's just the signal. The underlying issue here really is the cellular stress. The energy system's not coping. Mitochondria is under pressure. Most people have a high threshold for this. Take something quite extreme to reach it, like really extreme exertion, heat stress, drugs, cross trauma. But for me, that threshold seems to be lower, reachable in normal sort of conditions. Apparently, walking to a train station. Where am I at now? Here's kind of situation. Training over Christmas was pretty minimal delivery, so I needed to let things settle, make sure everything was actually recovering properly. Now the plan for me is to start adding volume back carefully and gradually. But I'm thinking about it as a return to play before return to train, and then a return to train before return to race. Now that might sound pretty obvious, but it's a distinction I feel I have to make for myself, because the goal right now isn't just fitness, it's making sure my body can handle load again without problems, making sure I can, walk around and generally live like an actual human life before I start thinking about a training life and athletic life. Will I end up triggering anything? Then return to train means, can I handle structured load? Can I do intervals? Can I recover from them normally? Then obviously return to race is, can I handle the specific stress of competition, unpredictability of races, because it's a different demand, and each of those has a different level of demand on my body, and I need to be clear of what step before moving to the next. As I said, last year I got back into racing, and I've actually come up with some goals for myself this coming year. So to start off with, it was going to be the Bucks Track Time Championships in end of February. And there's a little road race in March after that. And then in October, it's the Wild Masters Championships, which are being held at Lee Valley. Kind of big deals. And I thought it'd be quite funny because as a mature student, I can qualify for the Bucks. And also, I'm old enough to now qualify for the Masters Champs. And I thought it'd be quite cool to sort of try and get a result in each. I don't know what my goals are going to be. And it's beginning of January now. I don't think I'm going to be quite ready for the end of February, which is a shame, but there's always next year. But October could still look more likely for the World Masters. But then road racing, again, I don't know. It all depends how the next sort of few weeks go and sort of how that process goes and I return to training. So really depends what my body can handle, what makes sense. And I'd rather leave those goals open and commit to something and then make that bad decisions trying to hit it. This is how I'm thinking about training now. As I said, once I've built up, I'm still going to train, still planning to race. That absolutely hasn't changed. But I think about it differently than I used to. I used to manipulate load pretty aggressively. Big weeks, recovery weeks, intensity blocks, push, recover. I try and squeeze in as much as I could because I knew I could recover from it. But this sort of recovery now is a different kind of recovery, if that makes sense. I think one of the big things for me now is that transition period. So going from like a big week to a very light week, I don't know if that works. Perhaps that could be a trigger. So maybe I'm better off sort of, rather than going boom down here, keeping everything sort of here, and perhaps taking maybe not a full off week during my recovery, but still keeping the legs turning. I'm thinking out loud here, making sure that my legs and muscles are moving all the time, whilst obviously still resting. So I'm going to build more gradually, keep things a little bit more consistent, avoid sort of the really sharp edges. Fueling is going to become more important too, not just for performance, but for protection. Low glycogen could be a part of my risk profile, so I'm going to be really careful about going into sessions underfueled, training fasted, that kind of thing. Not that I liked doing it, but it's at the end of the day and you're like, oh, I've got dinner later on. Making sure for those points, I'm really fueled and perhaps over fueled. Whether any of this is right, I don't know. It's what I figured out through trial and error. Mostly error, to be honest, because, in 15 years, I've had about 8, 9, 10 bouts of this. Going through this has changed how I coached, or maybe just made me take more seriously what I already believed, because I pay a lot of attention to context now. What else is going on in somebody's life? Illness, stress, sleep, nutrition, all of that changes what the body can handle on any given day. So that's why I feel that plans should have that flexibility built in, because life isn't perfect. It's a guide, not a mandate. Like, I'm the navigator of the ship, but I'm definitely not the captain. If something's off, we adjust it. Rigid adherence when the body is compromised is how people get hurt. And I listen. When athletes tell me something feels wrong, even the numbers look fine if they can't explain it. That subjective sense, that's real data. It might not be HRV or resting heart rate, but it's real data that you really have to listen to. I know that because I've lived it. I've always believed these things. Living through rhabdo has made me less willing to compromise on them. Now, the uncertainty. I want to be honest about how much I still don't understand. I don't know exactly what my triggers are. I have suspicions, I've noticed patterns, but nothing I could point to with certainty. I don't know why I went several years without an episode. It was 2016, 2017 that I last suffered anything. What was different? I really, really don't know. And I don't know if the way I'm managing it now is optimal or just adequate. What I definitely know I don't want to do is give up cycling. That's the thing about this rhabdo. I could probably live a life and be absolutely happy, not have any issues with rhabdo ever again if I didn't ride a bike. But I'm not quite willing to do that because obviously we love cycling and cycling is my life. And to be honest, the uncertainty of all this is quite uncomfortable, especially when I'm supposed to have these answers, but I'll be honest, I really don't. Pretending I have the answers would be worse than admitting that I don't. So, I'm still figuring it out. So that's the situation. I've got genetic variants that might make me more susceptible to rhabdo. It's been a part of my life for quite a few years, or half my life. I've learned to manage it mostly, but it still catches me out, even when I'm being careful, even when I'm just walking to the train station. Right now, I'm in the early stages of building back. Return to play first, then return to train, and then we'll see about racing in the future. The goals for this year are pretty uncertain, and I'm trying to make peace with that. I'm still coaching, still studying, still planning to race when it makes sense. This is just one of the constraints that I work within. Now, if any of that resonates, if you're dealing with something similar, something genetic you don't quite understand, you're going through these hospital trips, whatever it might be, I'm genuinely interested to hear from you, particularly if anyone else carries, VUS variants in metabolic genes and we're trying to figure out what it means to them. So saddle up and thanks for watching.